Greetings, YouTube. I have never played the game League of Legends. I don't even know what it's about, quite frankly, or I didn't until quite recently, and I mean moments ago. I happened to stumble upon an animated series, 9 episodes, called Arcane. That's all I knew, the name Arcane. So I looked at the little blurb about it, and I said, okay, it's 9 episodes. It's only, you know, not much of an investment. So I clicked on the first video, and that's when I discovered it was produced by a gaming company, and it was based upon the video game League of Legends. And again, until that moment, I actually had no idea what League of Legends was, except for the name. That's it. I just knew that there were people that enjoyed playing it. And I have to say that, without a doubt, this 9 episode series, and I believe that there's a second season currently in the works, is the best written, the best voiced, and the most visually stunning series I have ever viewed in my entire life. This has set a new watermark for me that I will be comparing other things to. There wasn't a single scene in this whole series that you couldn't have frozen that moment and thought of it as a painting. The characters had depth. They were flawed. They were human, even the ones that weren't. The world building was beautifully done, and it was an excellent example of show, don't tell. There was no prologue. Nothing. The scene just opens, and you have to figure out what's going on all by your onesies. It was a coming-of-age story. It was a found family story. It was a story of betrayal and loyalty and lies and duplicity and love and everything else in between. It was Shakespearean in its scope. It wasn't without its flaws, in the sense that far too many of the characters were far too pretty. There were many, many pretty people in this series. They were capable of producing ugly characters, and they did. There were ugly side characters throughout the series. They were capable of making the characters interesting that weren't human, and yet all of the main characters were human. I was let down by that. In a world where there are so many other species, all capable of, thinking and feeling and being what they want to be, having all the main characters be humans was dull. There were some important non-player characters, like side characters, supporting characters, that weren't human, and that was good. And there were lots of background characters, or ones that just flitted in and out of scenes, and that was also good. But it would have been far deeper in my book if you had a world this rich, and if that richness was reflected in those non-human species being represented as total equals, toe-to-toe with the humans. Except that's not what happened. Now, there was diversity. That was good to see. So amongst the humans, the ethnicities seemed to be equally represented, and there seemed to be absolutely no discrimination along those lines. There seemed to be some gay themes going on there. We're not 100% sure. Maybe it was a bit of a fake out, but I'm not positive. I don't know actually how these characters eventually end up, whether they are, a couple or not. But at least it was alluded to. And it wasn't seen as anything out of the ordinary, which was nice. It wasn't considered blasphemous or something that was, stuck out like a sore thumb. There were those that sought peace in the series and those that sought war. Those that were always looking for a solution, and those that were always willing to turn to violence. There were just so much good in this that I was willing to kind of overlook the bad, the things that I felt lacked. Because I'll be honest, the things that I felt lacked were far outnumbered by the good. I thoroughly enjoyed this, and I immediately recommended it to some of my friends that they check it out because it's well worth your time. I don't know how many of you have Netflix, but if you do, I recommend watching this series. And for you that don't, there are other ways of watching a series if you don't have a Netflix account. We'll just leave it at that. I just had a really good time. I loved these characters. I will say one thing about the characters themselves, even though if there were too many humans, they didn't portray the women as all being these overly sexualized beings. There wasn't this endless stream of big-breasted women with cleavage everywhere. The women were portrayed as looking like people, and that was refreshing. Their styles were all individualistic, some more sexualized than others, but that seemed to be an individual choice as opposed to one imposed upon them. And a couple of them had essentially what were uniforms, because that's what they chose to present themselves to the world as. That was their style. So yeah, that was nice as well. But it was just visually stunning from beginning to end, and the world building of this, steampunk sorcery world where technology and magic were slowly being fused together into something brand new, of how it liberated some and kept others exactly in the same place they'd always been. The class warfare in this, which was literal in some cases, was also good. I enjoyed that. Classism is far more dangerous than some people seem to think it is, because a lot of people in the world today seem to think it's gone, and it sure as shootin' isn't. So I was thoroughly thrilled by this, had a good time from beginning to end, and was emotionally drawn into these characters in a way that I have not been in a very long time. So, if you haven't seen the series Arcane, based on the League of Legends, I would recommend it. And if they actually do the second season and I have an opportunity to watch it, I shall. So I'd like to hear from any of you folks that have seen it and what you thought.